Thank you very, very much for doing this. And I don't know, tell me how are you and maybe where are you? You can show us a little your home as well.
And thank you. You've been chasing me for 5 months, I think. Trying to get some interview or live set. But yeah, live set's not gonna happen because I'm lazy and I don't have internet in my studio, so...
Oh, well, at
I'm
least we
good.
got you, yeah.
I'm good. Off Friday after work, having like a glass of wine and some mulberries.
I love the candles, by the way, also. I love the atmosphere.
Yeah, thank you. I always want a nice atmosphere when at home, when you're chilling out by yourself. I never lived at a place this long. It's been 8 years.
Wow, man, it's so nice.
And a freaking huge garden. It's like 5,000 square meters.
Okay, so every picture you post of you gardening and stuff, it's exactly there. Okay.
Yeah, it's me. I love growing shit, except of the herbs. And yeah, then I get Johan Donkey Shot, to the genius grower guy, to show me how to do everything. I even opened the studio when I arrived to find like you wanted some pictures and some music. So I went in here to find my hard drive. And
Man, I love that you have like a real studio separate, from the house. That's so cool.
yeah, I built it some years ago, or it was a guest house, and took here an acoustic guy who drew some paintings, and someone rebuilt it for me, actually. I'm not gonna get credit for that.
I love the place, actually. Wait, can you maybe like point to the room just with the phone so we can see it?
Yeah, sure. Like, I'm gonna start up here. There's actually a bed.
So you can crash there after also. Not bad, man.
Or my friends who are sitting behind is crashing there. And down here is like a huge bass trap, actually. Like, I'm not sure if you see it. It's like, it's actually no.
Yeah, I see the material and the wood there.
And then you have the back of the wall is apparently designed so it's supposed to meet the different frequencies in this room. And then you have my favorite ones.
I love those Genelecs. They're amazing, actually.
Oh, I actually meant the PSI.
Wow, yeah, you have PSI. Wait, yeah, show me again, please. I like kinda went to the wrong place with my eyes.
Yeah, it's like I have the Genelex because one of the PSIs actually died just beginning of coming home from the Alps, in this beginning of the Corona crisis thing, sitting in the studio, and for the first time ever, one of them dies. And I just got it fixed last weekend by a friend. And I got the Genelex, a friend borrowed it to me.
And you also have some modular setup, no? Maybe you can show me that too?
Yeah, but it's so random. I mean, man, I'm not so as good as you are with the modulars.
Hey, but you got quite a box there already, man. That's a few rows.
Yeah, I started, maybe 5 years, 6 years ago. And then it was just 2 racks. Then I built the rest and started buying stuff. Also getting some stuff sent, like, Kazoo.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. Casol, I mean, you mean the producer, no? Also from Sweden.
Yeah, he's into like soldering stuff. He like sent me stuff he's like just soldering for fun, for super cheap, just for fun.
Maybe you can point. Maybe you can point directly to the modular. So there was a lot of like do-it-yourself things that you once sent you.
No, Christer sent me like this one. It's like Usant. if you're into this kind of stuff, I think they're not actually built for the Euro rack apparently, and this.
I did, I didn't know these ones. What about the vinyls on the wall?
Yeah, this is like started like an inspirational wall, like on my side here, like records that inspired me, which got me beginning in music and stuff that also inspires me nowadays. And together with my first ever 2 releases on vinyl, actually, like Scramble Head and Boom Records.
Hey, well, that's very nice. I love the studio, by the way.
Wow, you lured me into an interview for the first time in 12 years, man.
Yeah, it's true. No, you were saying actually, I really need to dig this up. Then I'm gonna ask you for the link. You told me, no, Muvali interview you like in person in Boom in 2008.
For some kind of Boom radio thing, they wanted a set, but
But it didn't. Yeah, they got an interview. Yeah.
and I played some inspirational music for them. I wanted to play some different stuff, like I guess it would be the same here, like broaden your mind, find the.
Okay, so wait. Let's dig right into it. This is we're gonna talk about the whole night. So, your music is very, very particular. I mean, psychedelic trance, it's particular enough compared to other styles. And maybe now it has become more formulaic and more predictable, but it's still a weird style of music, let's say, that is an acquired taste. But you are one of the most unique of all the people doing this psychedelic trance. I'm pretty sure this has been the comment of many people. So yeah, that's my idea, to try to pick your mind a little bit on how you were able to get to do the music you do. Go a little through your influences, go a little from like your own upbringing. But yeah, maybe that could be the first question, which is going to lead to many other questions. How was exactly? Yeah, there's still no question, so let me try to condense it into one point. How was your first moments with music? When you were growing up, where did you grow up? What kind of music were you listening to? At least from the first moments that you are more or less conscious. I mean, of course, you cannot mention everything, but yeah, tell us a little. How was your first moments?
I can go for the growing up. Born in 79, so it's like 80s music a lot. North of Stockholm, which is kind of like I would say middle and upper middle class area. Forest around the corner. I still remember how I heard Erasure first time because it was on a CD, which was super cool that it came a CD. And buy my first vinyl, which was together with my mom getting Bob Marley. But yeah.
Wait, your first vinyl was Bob Marley?
Yeah, somehow. But I can't say I had no fucking clue what it was. It was just and I wouldn't say she has any clue either. So yeah, my musical background there was growing up with a father who loved jazz and taking me to jazz concerts and classical concerts, and I found in my youngsters, in Sweden we have these musical classes. So I found the room on the breaks where they put the instruments, and I went in there and started harassing the piano.
How old were you when you first started harassing a piano?
I don't know, quite late, I would say, probably 10 or something.
And there you were already conscious of the music you like, or it was still whatever your parents show you, or you were already choosing, the music you listen?
Somehow back then, I do remember I wanted something like the classical blues, rock and roll kind of chords and stuff. And back at home, there was a lot of jazz, and I would say shitloads of Louis Armstrong, modern jazz quartet, Miles Davis maybe, but also like ABBA. Of course, you're Swedish.
Of course, sometimes it's hard for me to remember that ABBA is actually Swedish.
No, we have plenty of famous people.
So, for example, okay, about jazz, I know that jazz is a big thing for you. So, I mean, how was it? What were your like favorite artists? You already mentioned Miles Davis, but maybe you can tell me a little more what he means to you and what other composers. Maybe you can tell me more. Why did you like jazz since the beginning, and yeah, what caught your attention?
That's a long story, actually.
Please go on, at
Well,
least part of it.
okay, so yeah, like harassing that piano, then getting into courses of having Russian teachers teaching you like classical piano, playing shitloads of Chopin, which I love for sure. Still have the piano brought with me.
Wow. How good are you at it? Can you still play it?
No, I kind of suck nowadays. My back then I did all this, things
It's
you
a virtuoso stuff.
yeah, you could actually move your fingers playing Chopin and Mozart and stuff. But now it's they're fucking stiff. Thanks to electronic music, I would say. But then, yeah, having all those Russian teachers and stuff who were really inspiring, but still, I was like, oh, I want to play around, do something fun, like jazzy stuff, but they couldn't really help me. And growing up with the jazz stuff in the background, I got more and more into that. So then I found, the computer.
What did you like about jazz? Like what did you like about Miles Davis? Because there's many things to like about jazz.
Actually, I can't say I like really recall listening to Miles Davis and stuff like that back then. It was more like I do remember shitloads of Tom Waits, modern jazz quartet, very cozy stuff. And I have to say Tom Waits is still he's still fantastic. The jazz came kind of later after going through all the hard rock and death metal and hippie phases.
Okay. So wait, let's build the timeline correctly. So, okay, you were young, you started to play piano with the Russian teachers, as you say, and then what happened? What was like the first music styles that you start to choose for yourself after that?
I'm not sure if I want to admit it.
How bad can it be?
But no, but yeah, I think in the beginning, like growing up north of Stockholm was like, you're into like death metal and stuff. And I think you probably know Tiamat, Entombed, Dismember. They all came from the same hometown like me, but they're like maybe 4 or 5 years older. So it was a hard rock and death metal city.
So did you really like get into the scene, or you were just listening to the music at home?
In the beginning, I remember having like over 30 records with Iron Maiden in the beginning. Having this clothes with all these Iron Maiden stamps everywhere, and then I started.
Okay, so you really dressed up in the style and
complete dark teenage looking for something.
How old were you? How old were you at this time? When
that was maybe, I don't know, early teenage. It was like a switch between being like the I always been very nice, but it was like a switch between wanting to be cool probably or something, and then starting to just get super into one group at a time or something.
And what did you like about this music? You know, what caught your attention of it?
I think Iron Maiden was probably like I would say like coming from classical backgrounds and stuff. There was very typical scales and stuff. But way before that, I would say also what that's typical for all people. I would say like in this scene. Also, I grew up with Jean-Michel Jarre, which for sure also influenced a lot.
So yeah, okay. So because you went from classical music to like death metal and hard rock, when did you start to open up? You know, to listen to other things? Like now you mentioned Jean-Michel Jarre. Like when did you start to break away? You know, and how did you find all this different music? Because with
Jean-Michel was that was growing up. That was like from growing up. Hanging out with friends, then started listening more and more to different kinds of music. I'm trying to remind myself actually what and getting more and more into like 60s, 70s rock. I was fanatic about the Doors, Pink Floyd,
okay.
stuff like that.
Did you care about the psychedelic aspect of the Doors and of Pink Floyd? Did it make an impression in you, or you just like the music?
In the beginning, I would say both Doors and especially Pink Floyd was ultra. The musical part is fantastic. The Doors nowadays sounds fucking boring, mostly except the track the end. But Pink Floyd is timeless, I would say. And yeah, the musical aspect of them is fantastic. And yeah, where to start that one? Yeah, help
No,
me out here.
so how did you get the music there, for example? You know, like how did you find Pink Floyd or all of this? Like a friend gave you, you were searching on internet, because now we are somewhere in the 90s.
Yeah, I would blame my brother actually. He was the guy who bought Pink Floyd. Was my introduced me to Goa first time, and, and yeah, he introduced me to those stuff, and I really enjoyed it. And was sitting with my PC 286, making music with this deuce-based sequencer, trying to replicate what I heard, kind of.
But okay, so there are we making a jump, or all this was happening simultaneously? Like how old were you when you got this computer?
Okay, so I was playing the classical piano, and then I think I was 12 years old when I had that 286. Before that, playing keyboards and stuff, but then I had like a computer with this two-spaced sequencer, and that's like I'm born in 79, so that's 91 maybe. But I was making like I was trying to replicate like I don't know Iron Maiden or later on Slayer or something, but with uh, this MIDI standard sounds.
No way, really? You are trying to do Iron Maiden on a 286?
Yeah, with this deuce-based sequencer where you actually use the keyboard to set in notes. So use the insert. I can remember I was really fast in the end. Like use the insert button to insert a note, jump up, and then you could like manage different parameters and write more like I would say like composing on a sheet or something. Like write the notes and
Wow, man. And wait, I mean, did you figure out this by yourself? I mean, basically you had a computer for what reason? Or you already bought a computer knowing you could do music? I mean, how did you discover this program?
uh, oh, that's a good question, actually. Maybe it's my father or my brother. My father is like a scientist of what do you call it? Aurelia Borealis, like northern lights. My brother is 4 years older, and he was into computers and stuff. So they probably brought the computer, and probably my brother had the programs and stuff like that, and showed me in the beginning.
And then you kind of like made this music and figure out kind on your own, I guess. So you were making it somehow with your brother.
No, I was figuring it out myself, and I would say I was figuring it out myself until 2000 something. I'm not sure if to jump forward or
No, it's
keep
okay. We will get back to when you started to like really make music more seriously, but I'm curious now to more or less understand like the timeline of your okay like if you allow me to say now it's serious, but no, like okay, so basically you got into all this heavy metal, then you started slowly to listen to The Doors and Pink Floyd, and then what happened? Did you already find the more experimental music at that time? Like, for example, like we mentioned Stockhausen before when we were talking, or FX Twin.
later, actually. Like, I would say, like, compared to a lot of friends, for me, I love like Aphex Twin and stuff like this. That came actually like for me later. The first thing that I heard, like I was making like Jean-Michel inspired ambient or like rock and roll or whatever with a computer, and by then that's
But
maybe
okay, for example, with Jean-Michel Jarre, how did you find it? Through internet or how?
no, growing up. I remember when I showed you the studio, like it's on the wall there. It's actually my father's record that I stole. I grew up with it, like from yeah. He had it since it was released in '69, I think.
Wow, I see. No, I hadn't understood that actually like that. You know, I thought you just kind of found it when you were young. Not that, yeah, wow, that's really, really
No,
cool.
no, it's not like I didn't purposely look for it. It just was there all the time. So, so I had that in the background. I love that spacey sound. And then back in the 90s, I think mid 90s, my brother started going to this. Because nowadays, at least, if you're Swedish in famous parties in Stockholm before it like got ridiculously banned or whatever, like in like 95 or something, this Docklands club, and then he came home with this. I think the first record I heard that wasn't Jean Michel but electronic was like Distance to Goa 1.
So, okay, the first real ravey music or whatever to call it was trance for you, was directly Goa trance. No house, no techno.
Straight into Goa. Yeah, of course. Then I found like Kbca Bush and stuff in the 90s and was like, wow, they are also funny people playing around. Maybe we get to that later, but especially Kari was a funny, playful music. But for me, the beginning was actually that Distance to Goa 1, and here I know this sounds like so fucking classical for, I would say, for us psytrance producers in our age. But yeah, hallucinogen, Simon Posford, angelic particles. That one, it shifted me to try to replicate what he did.
Was that track in Distance to Goa in that compilation?
I think this has Goa 1 or 2. I remember
Wow.
some other tracks, it was like Spectral by Spectral. I think Astral Projection Innovation. Slinky Wizard. Wow, I remember a lot. Slinky Wizard. What was it called? Was it The Wizard, maybe?
So, okay, just to understand. So basically, you were into all this ambient stuff, doing with your computer, like similar to Jean-Michel Jarre, and then you basically your brother show you this distance to Goa, or you found it through these parties in that club?
No, I didn't go to any parties. I was like just sitting in front of the computer making music all the time, and he brought it home after I guess what you would call a rave party in the mid-90s.
So you
And
didn't go to these parties, it was just your brother.
yeah, he went to the parties in the mid-90s. I think my first one was 97, 98 or something like that.
Okay, so then basically your first real exposure to electronic music was directly hallucinogen.
Yeah, it was actually, yeah, I would say like,
The first
yeah,
time you cared
it was
about
actually
it.
Goa music in the beginning, if you don't count like Erasure or something like that.
No, like that it's too early to count it as like dance floor. Yeah, wow. No, I'm just very impressed, about the coincidence and accident that basically pretty much the first thing that you heard was Goa, and that in that compilation was, yeah, such a particular artist and particular composer, and that track also, which is famous, no? I think is one.
Particular artist, but it was also from, I think, like I heard the full compilation and coming from classical background, like being a pianist and stuff. I remember that track by fucking Simon Posford was like was the thing that like got me. Wow, this is both musical. It's fucking interesting. Build up everything. Not to neglect the other people on those CDs, but
No, but
yeah.
how old were you at this time when you heard these tracks?
So 16, 17 maybe.
Wow,
95, 96, yeah.
that's pretty young and pretty early on.
Don't remind me. I'm getting old. I used to be like the young dude who played some sets.
Okay, wait, before we go fully into trance, I'm curious, like how was it parallel to this? Because okay, you discovered trance and you were immediately trying to do it. So at one point we will go back to this moment, but I wonder, because you also mentioned to me many other influences, like again, like jazz or like Mike Patton or like Stockhausen. So how did it all this happen? Like what did you continue to investigate and discover in these times?
I never stopped to discover new music. That's interesting though. But I think late 90s, I went through all these periods of listening to like left wing, progressive rock or whatever, to death metal, coming back and forth and enjoying all kinds of music. Then you find your crowd of people who loves discovering music, kind of, and then just start exploring everything and widening your perspectives or horizons of influences.
What was
Which I'm
the next thing you discover? After this trance thing happened, what was the next thing you discover?
was probably more weirder electronica of different kinds. I'm trying to remember all the names of those.
Was it there that you finally discovered like Atom TM or FX Twin?
Actually, later, that was like around 2000-ish. And Aphex was like also, no, I think I heard Aphex a couple of times because back then it was not like, it wasn't actually like, you play Goa or you play whatever, or it was a mix of everything. I still remember like, the track, I think it was like Didgeridoo or whatever, getting played like mixed into stuff. It could be breakbeat, electronica mixed with Goa or with Kbca Footage or
And for example, you had mentioned that jazz was something that you discovered later in your life. Was that around these times, or also it happened around the 2000s?
And I guess jazz was around, yeah, because of my father and all the jazz and all the Tom Waits and stuff really, and also coming, like I told her, like coming from a classical piano background with a classical, I guess, musical education or whatever.
Ah, yes, but sorry, I meant you said Miles Davis came later on. Was it around this time?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think. Like, probably heard Miles Davis, like the more like kind of blue and stuff of that early, and then but Miles Davis and more like stuff like that. It was probably like 2003, 2004. Maybe I started getting more and more into more spaced out stuff. Or
And what about you had also mentioned that you like breakcore and all this. Was this also around this time?
that must be like 2003, 2004, maybe.
Okay, let me try to understand what happened. Like around the end of the 90s, you discover like Goa. You were already trying to do it or when you were making music.
Yeah, I think like everybody who starts making something, and I was completely alone all the time, so I didn't have any contact with anybody else making any kind of music back then. Also, like not that kind of music, so you had to find your own way all the time. And for the record, I have to say it's a good thing. Try to replicate people in the beginning, learn the ways to do it, and after that find your own
Yes.
sound.
I think it's very similar to like what painters do, no? That you have to paint the Mona Lisa 300 times until you get it right.
Yeah, for sure.
So there,
Mm.
like, where were you, like, musically? Like, basically at home, you were already doing music. At one point, you discovered hallucinogen, and you started to try to replicate it, and then, like, there you continue to discover music. But were you already trying to do other music while you were experimenting, or you were solely trying to do like Goa trance?
No, I was making all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I sent you a couple of stuff before the interview, but I didn't send you like all the experimental stuff. I have like danceable stuff in 200 BPMs and all the weird. One sounds like some dirty techno, some sounds so shitty so you can't imagine. Like some early stuff was, yeah, I remember getting this Roland sound canvas, this sound module. The early stuff I made was finding like, these buttons on that one and finding the cutoff, of course.
So there you were still making music with the 286, or you had finally upgraded?
No, it was still a 286.
Keeping it real. Okay, I wanted to ask you, and maybe now after this we can check a little some music of like your early influence. First of all, I wanted to ask you about Mike Patton, which I think it's an interesting question, and yeah, maybe it doesn't matter about the timeline. Maybe you can tell me why you think that also Mike Patton was someone interesting for you. When did you discover it? Why did you like it? What's in him? That made
I
you.
would say it's a genius, for sure. Like when growing up and hearing what were they called, like Faith No More or something, had no fucking. I didn't care about it, but then I heard actually was like the same guy who who introduced me, or what do you say, like introduced me to more psychedelic trance stuff instead of Goa by his long 16 hours crazy sets.
Hey, the famous Captain Ifan, also introduced you to Mike Patton?
Yeah, for sure. I heard his set in '99, I think, and I got so hooked by the story of how he built everything. And then at some point, some years later, maybe we got friends and we hanged out, we made some music together. And he's also like a music addict, collecting everything between heaven and earth, I would say. I mean, like everything from Oscar Sala to Chopin to Merzbow or whatever, like the famous noise guys or whatever. And yeah, he kind of introduced me to Mike Patton's newer sounds, Mr. Bungle, Phantomas and stuff like that. And it made a big impression on me during the creation of my second album.
So this you also discovered later on, much later on, Mike Patton.
Yeah, maybe 2005 or something. Like it actually, like it started 2004 to 2005 maybe. I mean, like this, like I can relate it to the different albums. And the second album, I started it straight away, more or less after the first one, because the first one is more like a compilation of tracks of the last 5 years.
Okay, I see. Okay, so wait, before we go like into what influenced you, what did you like of Mike Patton? You know, like when you listen to Phantomas or Mr. Bungle.
Broad perspective on music, you know, it could, like they're fantastic musicians and they're able to pull off jumping between jazz, death metal to whatever. And do you know actually, like Mike Patton supposedly have the widest range in modern years.
It's insane what he can do with his voice. I remember seeing, I think it was a clip of his other project called Moonchild, I think, where he's just doing like a weird vocal exercise. It's insane.
I have those like recordings of like him just doing voice recordings. And like Mr. Bungle is like produced by John Zorn also, who I really loved. And who you told me actually...
Yeah, man, for me...
to Megalopsy.
And this most crazy thing, like, yeah, so me also, I'm a big fan of Mike Patton, and mostly was Mr. Bungle that got me into it. Faith No More, I didn't get it. But with Phantomas, with Mr. Bungle, I was like, this guy is a genius. And then I like Faith No More after that. But yeah, basically the circus-like atmosphere of Mr. Bungle was something that it still has an influence for me, and I loved it, and I see it in your music for sure. And yeah, so John Zorn, like this, I don't know, like this genius composer, it's true, was one of like the producers of one of the albums of Mr. Bungle, which is called Disco Volante. So that's why I know John Zorn. And when John Zorn came to Argentina to play, I think it was the first time, he got interviewed by the biggest newspaper in Argentina, which is Normal. And there they asked him... Yes, so like came to Argentina somewhere around 2015, I think, or maybe... Yeah, I don't remember now. It was not so long ago. And it was the first time, so naturally he got like interviewed by a big newspaper. They asked him about what music he likes from Argentina, and there he mentioned some monster legends of like tango and rock and roll from Argentina, and in between all those names, you know, people like Troilo, for example, that is like our god of tango. He mentions Cerati, which is really our god of rock and roll. And in between all those names, he said Megalopsy. And
that's fucking cool. That's right.
Like the crazy part of this story is that I didn't know. To be honest, yeah, I like John Zorn, but I wasn't reading his interview in the newspaper. I got an email from the newspaper to confirm that it was really me. So it was like, hello, Nicolas, we are from Clarín newspaper, which is the biggest newspaper. And yeah, you got mentioned by John Zorn in his interview, can we call you? So they called me, they invited me to the show, I got to give him some CDs. I couldn't talk much, you know, but John Zorn somehow researched Argentina music and found us and dropped our name in an interview for no reason. And yeah, I got to see him play there, you know.
Your music. that's fucking cool though.
Yeah, I have nothing to say. Like, the only cool thing was that after that I got to send him a few emails and he did listen to some stuff, and then I tried to convince him to do a remix, or if he would be willing to play, you know, some music in a track or whatever, and he said no, like repeatedly, you know, like he was not into it. I had nothing more else to say, you know. So
Track what he's doing, like what he's doing nowadays, because I lost track of if he's doing any fun music nowadays.
To be honest, also I haven't checked at least in 1 or 2 years. I just remember this project that was like based on improvisation called Masuda, was it?
Yeah.
That was the last thing I checked, but yeah, that's like my little story with John Zorn, and yeah, and of course for me it's related to Mike Patton, no? That's why I knew
Yeah,
the
for
music.
sure. That's how I found him also, like Mike Patton and jazz, free jazz genius kind of out there.
And okay, what about Stockhausen, for example? When did you get on that side, you know?
Yeah, and then we don't mean like, yes, the regular Stockhausen, if people would talk about Stockhausen, would be Karl-Heinz Stockhausen for sure. Like, I listen to him also. It's like beginning of electronic music, or what they call it. Like, I always mix up him and Pierre Schaeffer. Which one was the guy who's doing the tape thing and who's the guy doing the synths?
You know,
Neither mind.
you know more
Stockhausen.
of this than me, for sure. Yeah.
Never mind, like Stockhausen and Walkman is like, I got this record like when maybe 2000-ish from a friend who introduced me to those parties with this Ifan guy, with the Stockhausen and Walkman guys, which is, I would say, like cut-ups together with like fun stuff. Apparently those guys also are into free jazz. I found them making really fucked up free jazz also. Not like a
Wow.
duo from San Francisco making artsy shit. And they're like their records of cut-ups and playfulness and like the niceness of the sounds they make made a huge impact on me. Like the fun parts of how music can be.
You know, I have a funny story with Stockhausen too. One friend of mine annoyed me to like, yeah, be his company to some weird show he wanted to see. So I think I was like 14 or 15, and one of the first times I was like properly stoned, and I went to. Sure, yeah, it happened a long time ago, and we went inside, and holy shit, like it basically was like some theater with like people dressing up in suits, and it was Stockhausen playing. So I got to see them playing when I was like 14 in the 90s in Argentina in some huge, very nice theater.
And Walkman now.
No, I mean like that yes, yeah, like the original, you know, that weird experiment, like they had their own instruments that they designed. You remember what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I've done like, yeah, studying that shit in courses and stuff.
I went to some kind of thing like that, you know, with people dressed in suits and me with 14 years old, like, yeah, not knowing where I was, you know.
Oh wow! Now I remember one of my big influences also, but yeah, I blame Ethan, but I can blame him for a lot. But he gave us shitloads of me and my friends the inspiration for shitloads of open your mind and listen to fun music. I would say, yeah, you know, Jens, Ola, Johan, everybody. I think we grew up with him showing us music and playing us music, or not growing up, but at some point coming with ideas. That was fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. You guys are one of the most deeper collectors of music and knowledge in general, and that's something that I think brought us more close together. No, we are all like super nerdy and really care about. Yeah, sure, man.
About the residents.
The residents. Yeah, I actually do know, but why are you mentioning?
Now we're talking about that age, like with Mike Patton and stuff like this. For me, that was also when I discovered the residents, and I would say Astrid Mother's Temple, all this spaced out.
That side of rock as well.
Yeah, I loved Astrid Mother's Temple. Is super nice. I think I have like 20, 30 records with them, but after a while it just gets fucking boring also. Like
Okay, I didn't know
they
you were
just
so
sound the
serious
same.
about it.
No, but I'm music nerd, get into stuff, and then after a while you kind of release that and go into next thing.
So wait, if you want right now, what we can do is I'm gonna play a little of Stockhausen and Walkman tracks, and so we can like show people a little bit what you mean, you know, with all this music, because I'm pretty sure not many people will know. And yeah, what I do maybe
Beginning.
maybe what I can do is like play a little bit of both tracks that you show me here.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
All right, guys.
And it's funny because they asked me to send me like 2-3 tracks of non-trance, 2-3 tracks of trance.
Exactly.
It took me days to just choose
different
tracks because it's.
I want to first start like very far away from trance, so people see more or less some of the things that surround you, and then slowly we will make our way there. So right now, for everyone, just so you guys know, we are gonna listen to, it's called Stockhausen and Walkman, and the track is called Wunderbar.
Yeah. You like it, Nicholas?
I loved it, man. Okay, now I understand why you wanted me to play this one. Okay, I'm gonna go quickly to the next one, Bypass, and then yeah, maybe we can talk a little about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe to make a little contrast, I could also play the track from End. Is this also another project from Mike Patton?
No, that's something I found this, like, I would say breakcore-ish kind of stuff. I think it's like from 2001, 2002 maybe. But it's actually released with Kbca Recordings, which is Mike Patton's label.
All right.
And
okay.
they're fucking geniuses also.
Okay, so let's check it out, because I really
so
don't
fun.
know this one.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's go for it. I really don't know. Yeah. So, okay, wow. Already in these tracks, I understand why it took you a while to choose them, but I see the point, you know, in the same way you choose how to make your tracks and your music, there was a lot of intention and very particular things happening in these tracks, especially the one now of End. It has like a groove of one of your tracks in a way, you know, like the way it's like moving and changing. So yeah, that I can see from the end one, especially the groove. And then of course with the Stockhausen and Walkman, it's obvious that all this part that is a little jazzy, but in a glitchy, shuffled way. And yeah, this thing of sound experimentation also and different textures.
I can understand even more my unreleased Stellar Pony stuff if you could relate that a lot to Stockhausen and Wortman, I think. Even though I don't want to be a copy, but still shitloads of inspiration from that, for sure. And yeah, for sure, the End, yeah, like the second album, I told you before, like listening a lot of...
Okay, but wait, let's go back now and let's slowly start to talk finally about trance, you know, and what was your relation to it. So, for example, you told me that you got the hallucinogen particles track, angelic particles track, and that's what was your starting point to try to replicate this music. So what was your next steps with trance? I imagine you kept collecting and also try to do it, but there maybe you can mention us a few of the projects that were important for you, or what was, you know, your when you finally understood, you know.
Yeah, in the beginning it was shitloads of like, hallucinogen, shitloads all the time. And then he released the Twisted record, his first album. Then, yeah, June Reactor, Extreme, Slinky Wizard, all of those classical, even Astral Projection. And then I had like a, you know, just indulging all of the Goa stuff, like everything from Mindfit to whatever. But then I got introduced to hearing like something that's fucking groovy and fun and playful. That I would say still, if I would play a psychedelic trance-ish kind of stuff nowadays, I still would put that one on. It's like this label from Australia, Psyharmonics. What they did, for me at least, was super influential. It's groovy, it's musical, it's
This
fun.
in the way, sorry to interrupt you. So this in a way, Psyharmonics was like all these Australian people, but that somehow they influenced what would become Suomi later on, no?
That I don't know. I think I know they have like connection with all the Suomi artists and Japanese people, and like I know like didn't Texas Faggot release their first on? Was it on Psyharmonics or was it Demon T? I'm not sure.
I don't know either, but I know there were releases from Haltia and them since the early days.
Yeah, I think their first album was Psyharmonics, and Psyharmonics was like for me also wow, like Rip Van Hippie, Shaolin Woodman. Wow, man, that was like a combination of experimentation of sounds together with the musical and I would say freedom of expression, not like the classical Goa stuff.
So okay, maybe now we can even go back to angelic particles and your first impression. Like, what was it of this music that you like? You know, like, what was it particularly of like the hallucinogen track, and what was particularly of the Psyharmonics that you like in there?
Angelic Particles was, I would say, like hearing Simon Posford just released his stuff. I'm still fucking impressed by his sound design and musical genius. And back then, I would say it was like you take Jean-Michel Jarre to the next level of kind of gliding out, spaced out, floating around in space or whatever. But that's kind of what the psyharmonic style for me redefined, how to have fun, how to do everything at once. They somehow remind me of Mike Patton in their ideas.
Yes, that's a pretty good point actually, because they are more like they have more humor, definitely.
Yeah, if I can like, I'm not sure. Yeah, to mention, like in 2007, first time I was in Australia, I remember playing after Andrew Till, one of the guys behind Psyharmonic. I think that's the first time I was almost like a bit starstruck. And then I met him actually, like I think last year. Yeah, this Christmas we were playing in Israel together. And wow, hearing him DJing like some of those tracks, and how experimentation and fun and interesting it still sounds. It's hard to imagine like 20-year-old track sounding like fresh on the dance floor.
And how was it for you, for example, with all the Swedish like part of trance, like Logic Bomb and Hax Flags and Coxbox? Were you into this as well?
A bit like not too much. We had this Örebro. I think they got a bit famous. I can't say I was in the beginning of the Örebro parties. I went towards the like. I still remembering dancing to one track that really struck me was actually one Hux Flux track, the short circuit one. That one really, really hit me on the dance floor in 2000. Otherwise, I wasn't such a fan of Hux Flux. Then Logic Bomb, I don't know. But they did this fucking remix of Coxbox. Like, I would say one of the best album within this genre, what you say, Coxbox major.
A major problem
was
in
it?
Australia.
Yeah, Great Unknown is the album, I think. And Logic Bomb made that their version very danceable and nice, or maybe they just I heard it too many times at Boom 2000 at the dance floor. I'm not sure. Everybody was just
Okay,
playing the same tracks all over.
but they are okay. So because basically, from what I understood about your storyline, you were most of the time like at home doing music, you know, and you didn't really go to parties. So when did you start to go to parties? What kind of parties it was? And you even mentioned that you were in Boom in 2000.
Yeah, 97, 98, my brother's friend is also a childhood friend. Yeah, his friend, they're born the same day, same age. They went to the old parties, and my brother's friends, younger brother and me, we bought all those, like, you know, kind of like space tribe-ish kind of shirts. And we went for a party, I think in 97, 98, on this boat called, like, I think Free Club or something. Like just next to the harbor, limited to 100 people, down, very sweaty.
That
And
sounds good.
then, and then I started opening up to those parties.
So what kind of music was there in those parties? Was already full Goa trance, or was everything?
I think it was quite Goa trance, but I have to say I can't really remember. I
Did
do
you?
remember like how I got into more interesting sounds. And in 99, I was hanging out with this friend. You know, the techno artist was making quite traditional. You know, Skudge? There's a lot. You live in you live in Bergen. You live in Bergen. Yeah, everybody plays in Bergen, I guess. But yeah, like traditional techno, more old school style. And him and me were hanging out a lot, and then his friend was gonna go for a party, and that was actually, Fredrik Krummelur. And we went to this party with this Ifan guy who played all this amazing music.
This party, was it your first party where Ifan was playing?
And that was the first one that Ifan was playing. And also Fredrik was playing at, I think, 8 or 9 or something in the morning.
So maybe, okay, me, because luckily I got to know Jens from Derango, so I know very well the importance of what was Captain Ifan's sets for you guys. But maybe for people that don't know, you can tell us a little about him, or maybe you can tell us how it was for you to listen for the first time, because from what I understand, he was into doing long sets, basically.
Well, I would say he had a concept of, he has a fantastic musical mind. He has an idea of how to build sets and stuff. I guess I haven't heard actually like Goa Gill or something. But Ethan had like an idea of playfulness and darkness, everything combined, but really, I would say, well studied of like start of night until like afternoon of how you go through every aspects of like destroy yourself and then build up.
So he really like
Psyharmonics and Xiaomi stuff in the end.
So it was like the Swedish Goa Gill in a way.
Yeah, but more fun.
But that's very interesting. So basically what you're telling me is like this guy would really play just himself the whole party and build the set really specifically telling a story, basically.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many details we should go into, but yeah, he didn't do many sets, but he planned it for like 3 months or something, then tried it out on himself to build a story.
How was it for you, that first party? I mean, where there that you listened to Krummelur and him, how did you feel with the music? Tell us more about that experience.
All respect to Fredrik and Krummelur, I like his music, but for me the conception there was like, hearing Ifan's long journey was like, I remember even like almost like freaking out after 2 hours into it. I'm alone with this private party in this wooden shell of upstairs dance floor in a farm kind of place. And then you kind of let that go and go into the vibe. I'm not sure how to explain it, but I think you know.
Sure, I know what you mean, but there was like, for you, let's say that party and that experience was like a step more into trance, where you
like I was making all these replicas or kind of Goa stuff and trying out different styles and stuff in the 90s. Then actually I wouldn't say Ifan was the first step. I went to Roskilde in 99 and really I remember like looking for, because Simon Postford and of course Simon Postford and Coxbox was gonna play at one of the stages, and like Spongel was gonna play there, but they cancelled. But Coxbox, I think Simon played also like DJ set or something. And I had like going through Christiana on the way there, like a Swedish person, finding all the good stuff that's not the typical, the more Mexican kind of style. And then, you go for that and walk around with a tape recorder for a day and find that. On the other stage, I remember Underworld was playing also. I think actually like maybe Aphex Twin was playing, but I'm not sure. I remember Underworld and Coxbox, and it was kind of like profound. So I came home from that, and that must have been like 99 summer. Then I remember specifically like 3 tracks, like which actually 2 of them ended up being my first releases. Like it was like the first one was The Ancient Jeweled Moon, and the title there is completely stolen from Jim Morrison's poetry book, actually, like
The poem.
American Prayer. Just took some lines from his book. And then Tropical Treasures, and I also made this called Psycho Forest, completely misspelled and everything. I made those 3 like kind of like that autumn, especially Psycho Forest and Tropical Treasures. It was close to Christmas, it was getting dark, walking in the forest and a forest, whatever. Yeah, and experimenting. I mean, like for I can tell you like sounds I made for Tropical Treasures. It was like, you know, this instant cappuccino. You have this powder. And I remember like having this computer microphone recording while, because I had noticed like when you're stirring around in it, it makes different frequencies and clicks and bops and shit like this. And that's actually like the beginning of Tropical Treasures, like you hear it.
Okay, just to understand and organize, just so I get the. So you went to Roskilde in Denmark, which is this famous festival, and there you got to see Kbca. Then you also went to this party with Kbca Footage and Krumelur playing as well in Sweden. But basically, what you were describing now, you would consider like your first real tracks that you made, basically in a way of a more advanced trance, let's say.
Yeah, in some ways, still playing around, kind of, but it was a shift in how the sound was, I would say.
Because before you were more like into what was like Israeli or more Goa classical trance.
Go for like Israeli classical style. It was just like everything. It could be everything from hallucinogen nervous system to astral projection, or just like everything with a big filter and a big of sweeps would make me happy.
So okay, where we left off, basically, I was trying to figure out when did you make the change in your production? You know, like how was your first experiments when you discover hallucinogen and you were trying to do music, and then what happened when you discover all this newer music? No, after your experience in Roskilde and your experience with Captain Ifans and his sets. So what happened there with your production? You know how. Yeah, what happened with your own ideas, and yeah, did you feel, you know, that was already the early beginning of Procs? And actually, wait, I have one question. You told me that in that early times you finished some music and actually got released. So maybe we can go back to those tracks and those story.
Like Tropical Treasures and.
Yes.
Yeah. So after Roskilde, I made Tropical Treasures, and then this track called The Ancient Jeweled Moon or something, the stolen title or something from Jim Morrison's American Prayer book, and the Psycho Forest. And although those 3 were quite different to like what I did before, I think I had some random tracks that sounded a bit similar in style, but mostly it was just, I would say, like kind of like Goa-ish Israeli trance, like MFT or astral projection. I was gonna say Slinky Wizard, but they still are making more weirder stuff. The sound in itself was more mushy, for sure, like a different experience of more, like I would say, more natural sound instead of the hitting you in the head. And also a beginning of like listen to everything you hear and experience it, because at some point maybe you reach a level, or not level, but you're at some point where you replicate it so much, so trying to find your own ways in it.
So wait, maybe before we go more deeper into your own music, we can listen to some of the tracks you sent me that were like more your early influence in a way. Should I first play this like Free Dreams track, or should I go directly to Ubart Mar or?
It could be interesting. I found this on the hard drive the other day, and I posted it in this old school releases. And it's actually like a replica of at least the beginning of it. It's shitty sounding, but it's like how I interpreted.
And wait, actually, I realize now. Before we even play that track, please tell us how it was that you got discovered. So you made these tracks after Roskilde. Please tell me the names and what happened that you then got offered a contract. There was an interesting story with that.
Well, that was after the Free Dreams track. I made what I would say maybe 97, 98, a proper like more Israeli Goa trance track called Kbca People. And we were hanging out at this local store in Stockholm, like who sold the records and gave them tracks. And I remember giving Tropical Treasures, The Ancient Jeweled Moon, and Kbca People, and probably more tracks. And they sent like that tape with some names on it to what was then Cosmophilia. Remember these ones, like distributor. And they had one of their labels was like Spastic Elastic, or maybe they just started it to release more weirder stuff. I'm not sure. And then I get hey, you want to release tracks? And I get two different contracts, one for like Procs, Tropical Treasures, and one for Kbca People with the Ancient Jeweled Moon, but Kbca People was actually like a track name. And then we met Ocean, who's living in Goa. He was compiling that one. And I was just like speaking with him on the phone, and it's like, yeah, is it all right? Or should we send you a new one? And I was like, yeah, who the fuck cares, actually?
Oh, okay, so wow, okay, so basically pretty much after you started to do all this new kind of psychedelic trance, the first tracks you kinda did got released.
Yeah, about a year later. And I was also like so tired of the more quirky sounds. I was completely into what was like late 90s, early 2000, more like the tech trance wave. I was like, who wanna listen to that shit nowadays? I was getting into more like Delta.
Yeah, okay, wow. So what we can do now, maybe to show people what we are talking about, I can play first this Free Dreams, which was like a very early Goa-ish track you did, and then I could play maybe a little bit of Peyote People, which also would be one of your first releases.
Well, I would say just do 1 minute of the Free Dreams thing. And Peyote People never got released, but it was the more like Goish, the one that ended up being an artist name.
Ah, okay. So this track never got released. Why is that?
I guess it sucks.
All right, yeah, that's a very good answer. All right, so wait, let's check those out, and then slowly we will move on more to talk about Procs and your own music. But what I can do is first we are gonna listen to this very early Goish trance. Then we can listen maybe a little to your influences like Ubermar or Shaolin Wooden Man, and then yeah, maybe we can go finally more to Procs there as well. So I think I will
This
start.
is getting a long interview, man.
No, well, we play a little of everything, but I just want to show people like these first moments. So, okay, guys, what I'm going to play right now is one very early Goa-ish track from Procs. It's called Free Dreams, the track. And then I'm gonna play you. Yeah, then I'm gonna play you some of the his early influences as well, and yeah, we are gonna talk a little more about that. So yeah, let's hear that first.
Don't worry. Soon, you'll be sleeping as soundly as you've ever slept.
Okay, I think we more or less get the idea with that one, guys. I'm gonna skip quickly now. We are gonna listen to Ubart Mar. It's one of the tracks that Mike recommended us, and yeah, this one is called Rhythmisen 4. So yeah, let's see a little of his influence here as well. Okay, that was Ubart Mar, and now we're gonna check one that I'm very curious about. The project is called Shaolin Wooden Man, and this is the Hungry Forest. And I remember this track, and this is a special one. So yeah, let's check it out, and then maybe we check one more, and then we go back to Mika and we talk a little about them. Okay, guys, that was a little of Shaolin Wooden Man. Actually, I'm not giving justice. These tracks are long and have much more parts. But yeah, now I want to show you a little bit of also Rip and Hippie. This is also part of what we were mentioning, more of psi harmonics and all that early Suomi. So yeah, we're gonna listen to Rip Van Hippie, oops, wrong comment. So, okay, sorry, you were telling me that you would have preferred that we listen a little more to the Ubart Mar and the Shaolin Wooden Men, and not so much to this old track of yours. Yeah, maybe you can tell me a little, I don't know, like for example, with the Rip and Hippies, the one I could recognize more immediately, like the influence, you know, how the way the track was built. Maybe also there in the Shaolin Wooden Men, I could recognize a little of the groove, but maybe I didn't do justice to the tracks as they are quite long, and maybe there were parts we were missing.
For sure we did. Yeah, well, I think the foundation, how they build the music, it's free form, it's jazzy playfulness, or even like coming from some mix of jazz and probably, like, I don't know, punk, something play around kind of style. And it's interesting you saying like you see like how it's build up, or that I'm doing the same kind of build-ups. It's not nothing that I'm aware of. For me, it's just playing around.
For example, that early track, so this Procs track, it was already with the name Procs, so basically the name Procs already existed as a project?
For the Kbca Israeli style?
I mean, I see that here in the file name it says Procs, but was this already a track from the project Procs, or you hadn't created that name yet?
No, I hadn't created it. When I heard they wanted to release, I had shitloads of different artist names, like Lucid, like very pretentious stuff, like Purity People, Lucid Dreamer, I don't know, all these kind of, you know, like. Then when I was gonna do the first release, me and a friend were actually just looking at newspaper, and like this combination of letters looks kind of nice and fun together. So that's Procs. It sounds nice. Like, I don't know how to pronounce it. I say Procs.
Okay, so that's the creation of the name. You didn't, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a combination of letters you liked.
Yeah, it's a combination of letters I liked, together with a friend with a sense of humor. And during that time, I guess we were both listening a lot to more like techno, and so maybe it could sound a bit industrial in the sense of the name, I'm not sure. I just like listening to Plastic Man, Carl Bush, Delta, stuff like this.
And so, for example, okay, now before we get into procs, like now we listen to that track that was more Goa. When did you start to do what more or less now it's became known as forest trance? Like, were you aware of that style when it started to appear? Was how was it for you? Did you just consider it all psychedelic trance? Did you make a difference between what was like psyharmonics or all the Swedish stuff? Like, yeah, what, like when the more or less the early 2000s came and forest trance appeared, did you consider this genre? What did you think about it?
Did it appear in 2000s?
Like 2004 or 5, let's say?
I never really liked what's called forest trance. I guess today, I honestly don't, yeah, so a bit ridiculous. I don't listen so much to it. I don't know, man, what's forest trance? It's like I could like have my headphones on for a walk in the late 90s and listen to Nervous System or Extreme or Delta or Pups or You Made or works together with everything as long as it sounds good or interesting. I'm not sure. I never really followed this thing called forest trance. Kind of.
No, okay, that's important too. That's a good answer too, because some people really care about the definition and some people don't care at all. But somehow, when people need to describe all the music that started to appear in 2004, 5 with the Rango Parvati,
Then I would say for me, forest sound or even desert or forest sound would be Shouting with Immense. That Hungry Forest or the full album, how it develops through different stages. Maybe it sounds like natural sound or wow, man, I don't know how to explain it. Yeah.
no, yeah, because me, actually, my question is to try to understand, because at one point, basically, you started Procs, no? And you started to do the music that we know now today. So what was that change in you? You know, how did you change from this Goa trance track we heard right now to what we are going to listen later, which would be your first albums?
I would say that was experience in Roskilde and together with the parties and these EFAM parties. It was nothing like I had an idea like I'm gonna do like this because wow man, that's a hard question. So
I mean, just to try to understand, like, for example, you were doing this, like, Goa trance. When did you start to change your music? Was it immediately? Did it take some years? Just to understand what led you up to get to Stuck in the Oven with me.
stuck in the yeah, I would say the switch was this Roskilde 99 thing, like how that switched my perception of sounds more or less, how instead of the more onto you kind of sounds, it was more groovy, connecting together kind of sounds. Stuck in the Oven with me, like it was more or less like a compilation of 5 years of different tracks. Like some of them are more into tech trance-ish area, maybe with a vibe of me, and like I mean, like I think the opening one is Cliffs in the Pop. I think that one was most likely very inspired by hearing Delta's first album with a distorted, but together with like listening to getting influences from Rip Van Hippem's harmonic style. It's mostly just playing around. Like I remember like making Pogo Pedagogue. I borrowed this Corey Monopoly from a friend and just made some clicks and in SoundForge put some resonators on, make a bass line out of that, or everything from that in like 2000-ish to 2005 when I made the last track. Then I went and I had gotten over to Cubase and made like the last track I made was the
Yeah, because there at some point, basically, I mean, we all know that you had this 286 computer, and then slowly you got the Roland Canvas. So also, when did you do the switch with the technology? You know, did you get a new computer? Did you start to use new programs? What like changes did you do to finally get there, you know?
I guess late 90s, I got a sampler, an Kbca 2000, and I found a Roland JP 8000 who could make the proper filter sweep. And then I got introduced to Cubase somehow. From there, like, realized you could actually have a sequencer that kept the BPM, and it's kind of hard to say. Like the first one was.
No, well, mostly I'm interested to see what were you using, no, when you started to build this album, no, so we can finally get to start to talk about your music.
Yeah, sure. And like half the album is made with an Kbca 2000 sampler and a Roland JP 8000, more or less. And we had like 32 megabytes on the Kbca sampler. You have to really learn how to loop stuff, and then some of the parts, like overtures from the oven, it was later on. So then I had Cubase and I had some plugins, and then you could do more. And I'm actually looking at Discogs. And then I would say like Mr. Bengerut writes again.
Now we can also switch to the artwork and talk more into detail about each track. But actually, mostly I was wondering, like what was leading up to that, or exactly what happened in those 5 years. And then if you want, we can go more into detail about the album and even listen some of it. But basically from what I understand, you started to use Cubase. And you also have this Akai sampler as well, and you mentioned a Juno as well.
The Akai sampler is the S2000. It was like later mid-90s than the JP 8000 Roland synthesizer. This super transy thing with a super saw thing. I found Cubase, and then it started to launch plugins like. And in those 5 years between 2000 to 2005, I don't know, it was just playing around with different new software.
If you want, what I can do right now, and we can go more into detail, I'm gonna switch to the other screen where we can see a little of the artwork, and let's talk directly about this album. 1 second, just give me 1 minute. Okay, so here we are watching at the artwork also as well. People will be able to watch. And me, unfortunately, I cannot share this with you because it's just in the stream. But we're watching like all the artwork. So maybe you can tell us a little about everything of the album, and then maybe we go back to the music. For example, what about the track title? Why is it called Stuck in the Oven with Me? I think that's a really, really good title.
So you're looking at the first album?
I'm here watching that Stuck in the Oven with Me.
Out in connection with the Trishula Records, I'm super happy they wanted to release my album. And they had this designer guy who wanted to make a cover, or they made some cover art stuff, ideas. But it was mostly like monsters, digital monsters, looking out at some big destroyed kind of city. And I got like, what the fuck, that's not my music. So you released with Trishula also. So. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'll fix something else. And I just looked at Photoshop and started playing around with it, got some ideas about like, the first idea was like take a picture of the oven and put like synths into that. Somehow the idea of the head in the oven came up. I'm not sure how. And then fiddling around with Photoshop, and it just ended up being a head in the oven, and then it got like stuck in the oven with me. So it was it's actually no proper reason.
It was more the artwork that inspired the name than anything else.
Yeah, both ways. I think like living in that apartment, having the oven, playing around with the music, finishing the overtures from the oven track while having that place, and just play around with Photoshop for a while. And thinking like the other one was way too serious, kind of like, come on, like let's have some fun instead. So all the details, everything in the first album cover is made by me, actually.
Okay, so you did the whole thing.
Yeah, I took photos of everything. I've been editing everything in Photoshop, all details, everything. I have no fucking clue how to use Photoshop. And I think you can see that on the album also, like it's very amateurish.
Man, I think it's one of the most amazing covers ever. Like the whole concept also, you know,
Really?
that you put yourself like inside an oven, the name, you know, to be honest, when this album came out, I was so surprised. I didn't know what to make out of it. It took me a very, very long time to really understand this album, to be honest.
Yeah, I understand you. Because everybody was expecting what I've kind of released recently, like more harder or faster or something. Now you actually got me to look at the...
No, like
Yeah,
I have to say that the whole album was amazing. I mean, and now, okay, maybe we can go a little.
some of it sucks actually. Some of the tracks is really shitty. Like the last one, Buforisk Normal. What is that track? Seriously.
Well,
That's
for
suck.
sure, for me, it was very challenging to listen the first time, but then it grew on me, and then the older I got, the more I found it interesting. So for me, that first album is quite spectacular because me, I didn't know your music until that full album. I had never listened, like never listened to any tracks anywhere, you know. For me, it was just like getting that album directly from Trishula. So yeah, maybe people don't know, but actually Trishula was our first label where we released Kbca album, and Micke Procs also he released his first album there too. So yeah, we were like label mates. So I just listened to your music because you were in the same label as us, and I didn't know anything. So I was quite in for a surprise when I listened to it.
Yeah, and I think you were the first artist releasing a full album with them, right?
Yes, we were actually like we were released a track in the first compilation, and then we were the first album they released.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yes,
And yeah, my album. Yeah, I'm looking at the pictures now, like remembering the tracks, the different tracks. It's yeah, for me a special. Yeah, I would say like you. I actually this album grown on me also because it sounds quite particular and different in many ways. It was
I
like
think so
yeah,
too. Maybe there we can jump a little into the music and there. Okay, there. You were saying that basically this album was like a compilation of tracks that it took you like 4 or 5 years to do it, and
yeah. And in the meantime, I released like tracks with like one track. I think my second release on Boom Records, like, Split Personality, then 2 tracks on Digital Psionics, like Autocrat and Tunes. You know these ones?
yes, I think I remember in some compilation, no?
Yeah, some compilations, like one Dutch label and then this Australian label who released quite nice music, both of them.
And I wonder, at this time, did you already have contact with all what was like the new generation of producers in Sweden? Like, did you already know? Like, I know that you knew already Captain Ifan from the very beginning. I know that you already knew Frederick. But what about, for example, like Ola, Jens from the Rango?
Yeah, everybody's gonna ask that. Yeah, no, I didn't know them like personally. No, we were all hanging out at the same parties. I think Johan Donkeyshot was helping out with the decoration at the parties. But we were hanging out at the same parties. The only what you know now as artists I knew was, I guess, Fredrik Krumelur.
So until that
And
time,
then,
it was mostly still kind of you alone making music with Procs stuck in the oven with me, or you had made music already before?
no, I didn't knew anyone who made kind of electronic music. I remember the guy who introduced me to the sampler, to get a sampler. He was into like old school techno or something. And then you just start experimenting, trying out, doing your own thing, kind of.
Maybe what we can do now is we can listen to one of the tracks so people have an idea of this album, and then maybe we can try to to deconstruct a little what were your ideas musically in this album, and a little more of your concept. So I'm gonna play, you had recommended to me.
Which
one
one?
second, let me find the track name. Exactly. We are gonna play
Mhm.
Mr. Bengrot Writes Again, and then we can talk a little about it. Yes, perfect. So all right, now we are fully into your first album.
Micke is sitting and wondering what the fuck happened. Why is everything silenced? No one is connecting to me. And then, yeah, I'm going like,
But okay,
okay.
yes, let's go back now to the album. So why did you choose this track in specific to show this album?
Well, for me, that particular track, I remember exactly when I made it, 2004. It was with, if you ask for the technical details, Cubase. And I remember the bass was made with this cloned software of the, what's it called, the old, really classic English. Either way, it was like the bass line and was something new to me with this more rolling one, but still more melodic.
The groove of the track is insane. The bass sounds like nothing even closely similar to any trance bass line that was ever produced before. It's really really unique.
No, but I don't know, man. Like now I remember the plugin was Oscar, you know, the Oscar synth.
Wow, yes.
Yeah, the replica of that one, the first one that came. And you said like the bass line is different to everything else. I'm not sure about that, man. I think that's a good thing from coming from the 90s. You were there also for those old Goa or whatever. People
Still,
were playing around.
I have to say that the
That was
groove is
it.
very particular. Also, how it starts immediately with all these synthesizers that sound like, I don't know, completely distorted, haunting trumpets. This, for example, all those sounds that sound like crazy trumpets right in the beginning of the track. How did you do them?
It's a combination of both being ultra inspired by Rick Van Hippie, his grooviness, all the fun things, and finding this. I think that was when I found this Metasynth standalone plugin that I still use always, but it's standalone, so you have to bounce down and do your stuff, but it's like spectral grain. I never heard anything do grain or spectral synthesis similar to that one. I mean, like Logic have this Alchemy synth that they stole or bought more or less from Camel Audio. That is, I would say, almost a replica of Metasynth, but not as good sounding and not doing the same stuff. And the trumpets in the beginning, yeah, it's like a combination of Metasynth together with getting very fond of 20s jazz music. So most likely it's a combination of, I can't tell completely honest that I know exactly, but combination of synths together with sampling probably Ambrose Orchestra, this 20s jazz music from the London. One of the finest jazz 20s music, I would say, if you want particular.
And okay, here, for example, I wonder because, okay, you were into music, you were into experimental music, but here you were making psychedelic trance, and I don't know, for me, already like the first moments of this track, they sound like they're drenched, in psychedelic liquid. So, did you ever like consider all like the spiritual and mystical side of what happens when you listen to this music, or for you this album was mostly just about experimenting with sound?
Well, I guess I actually have like a mysterious, I'm very scientific based or whatever, but I still have this quite, that sounds also really ridiculous, but burning some white sage and sitting in the studio, getting into the vibe, kind of like, I
But do
really
you care
love
when
the.
you're making music? Does that part play anything? Is there a part for that in your music, or when you make music, it's more about experimentation, or do you see a connection when you create that music? Do you consider about the effect of what other people will feel too, or yourself? Do you care at all in your music production about the psychedelic experience?
Yeah, for sure. In some sense, yeah. Uh, I don't believe like it's nice when you have the. I'm not sure what the English word for it is. Like when you have a glimpse in your eye. Like it could be fucking dark or something, like super dark or whatever, but still with a flirty feeling or joking around a bit could be quite nice.
I mean, I know that I just asked you like a question that is impossible, you know, so that's, you know, but
Yeah, it is impossible.
but for example, like if we go to the more like concrete aspect here in the album, because the reason why I ask you this question is because what it created for me, you know, me when I listened to this first album, these first tracks in the beginning was I didn't get it. And then when I finally listened to it more, and of course, when I listened to it in like a proper party setting with a more altered state of mind, with better sound system, something changed also how I listened to it, how I understood it. But also I would say the home listening sessions of your music were more important for me because there I could really get, it's like, okay, in a party I paid attention, Procs, cool. You know, like someone was playing it because it was from Trishula. Then Trishula guys gave me the full album. Okay, nice. And then I heard home and I could finally like digest it. And for me, it was really, really strong, the psychedelic impression of the album, you know, to the point that sometimes, even when I have listened to you in big parties or other moments, it was a little hard for me to hold on to reality, you know, even if I was sober. You know, for me, your tracks are not just a little psychedelic. They're like 1 millionth maximum threshold of psychedelic stuff, you know. So I wonder if when you're doing the tracks, you consider that, you know.
Not really. And wow, thank you. That's like, wow. Like, wow, coming from Pink Floyd and listening to the Doors and stuff, that sounds like you're fucking awesome or something. My ego is getting huge.
Yes, Micke. Yes,
but
absolutely.
but no, I'm not really considering it, that part. I'm not like I have to experiment with sound. Then I would be. There's much more dudes making much more interesting like experimental sounds or sound intelligence or diving into sounds. For me, it sounds also weird, but it's a classical thing. You get into flow, and then it feels more or less like you get into flow, and then after a while, it feels like something. It's almost like you're not making the music yourself. It's in some sense, I always see like this image. Not very. It's always like a picture. I can see colors, can see things moving together. Then it's just natural how you express the sounds, how they bend on top of each other or answer to a different sound. It's more or less like painting a picture.
So wait, I have a question there. You mentioned something interesting, that you said that you are almost like you're not making the track yourself. You're saying like you're almost like channeling the track. And there was one very interesting story that you mentioned when you were making your first track with Captain Ifan. I don't know if you want to mention it or maybe just go a little into, there was one particular detail you told me that like it started with a dream, no? Like you were somehow dreaming and you...
Yeah, I was living in this apartment and Ifan came over and we made this first track we made together called We Are Close under the name Duck Off. It's very harsh and very fucking good. I actually tried playing that for the first time in many years. This winter, last party I did it before Corona crisis. It's still fucking good. But after that weekend, I was still working on the Lonely Land of Tada. And I had the reactors in this plugin, which you could actually just push random and it pushed random parameters. I think this is the one you're after. It's called OK.
This sound, you did it, this happened while it was Lonely Land of Tada, not before. not in the stack oven with me.
While making Lonely Land of Tada, and it's called OK on the album. And it was a small apartment, and the track is called OK, and then I wake up in the morning, like Sunday or Monday morning, and now it sounds like fucking retard, but yeah, I could hear. I woke up with this weird feeling of something alien kind of close to me, actually on the other side of the room, like in the wardrobe, and I could like hear in my head this sound, and I go straight to the computer and I push random on this reactor plugin. It's called Metaphysical Function. You try that maybe. I think it might be Richard Devine who made it way back or something. And the first sound I hear is the same I've been hearing when I wake up, and you
Wow, man.
you can hear that one in that track, like the first break when it goes up.
Hey.
But who knows? Maybe we went through it and the random function wasn't like so random, so maybe we heard it the night before or whatever.
I don't know. I mean, for me, for example, what you were mentioning, this feeling that there was like aliens or other beings or things like this, is it something that you would normally pay attention to? I mean, had you had those experiences before? Was it the first time that you really felt like that? I mean, how much are you into that side of believing or, experiencing that kind of idea of, that you can kind of get information from this other dimension or these other beings, how much are into it? Because in this case, it sounds like you actually had one, no? You really had like the alien intervention where you received the sound and then you got it immediately.
No, I don't know. I don't believe too much in that. I think if you get into that side of everything, I think everything is kind of connected, but it also makes sense. Like, however you put it, now it gets like really deep, but it doesn't matter if it's religion or whatever, or there's some connection between everything. But
did you ever have an experience
me,
similar to that one again? Like, did you ever dream about the sound or anything like that connected to music?
Yeah, it happened.
So then, you would say at least that
like last morning.
so then you would say that that this is maybe something you are sensitive somehow, at least, no? To, I don't know. Me, inspiration works in many ways, maybe dreaming of an alien is just another way of getting inspired, or maybe it's a real alien. It doesn't matter in the end if it inspires you and you can make something out of it, that I guess.
And you don't have to put words on it. Like, I think like if you put words on like, oh, that's an alien, whatever, like some people go chasing those things to make reality of something that's just not.
No, but I don't know. For me, the reason why I ask all of this is, again, trying to understand what's going on in your mind when you do this first album, which for me is like plagued by aliens, It's like full of creatures talking, It's like invaded completely. So, I was wondering maybe if there is any other track from that first album that you could mention or something that you want to stand out, and maybe we can also play it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's stories to a couple of them for sure. I think Sanaton Megaphone is very fantasy-like. Kbca, yeah. I'm actually looking at the track list myself. Maybe Tailness's Tale, because it's very history for me. It's the first one I made. But if you're thinking like more like Tailness's Tale, it was made before everything there. But Overtures from Darwin is the more one with shitloads of creatures.
And what makes you mention, for example, the Tenniser's Tale? What
I think
was
it
the
was
process of making this track, for example?
getting into the tech trance kind of style, and I think the bass and kick is sampled and looped in the Akai S2000 again, fucking 32 megabytes of fun. Most sounds is actually the Akai S2000. Everything that sounds time stretch, everything is the Akai S2000. Like 32 megabytes of memory to make whatever you want. But okay, you can go deep down in the menus and start fiddling around. And then I also had the JPA 8000, so get a bit paddish, glittery sound. But still no effect rack or something, so it's quite dry. I like the driving force of it, and it reminds me of, I would say, techno nowadays, but for sure not as well made or anything, but it has a driving sound.
So would you like that we play this track, or is there any other track of the album you would like us to play?
Man, I'm looking at the track list and I'm getting sentimental. So, so that's a hard one. Yeah, that one, Overtures from the Oven. I can tell a story about Gelato Megaphone. Samsonite, it kind of sucks, but I know where that comes from. Poge Pedagogue. That's a fun one.
Right, so then maybe just so we can get a little more inspiration and to analyze your music, let's play one more. I don't know, I really like Overtures from the Oven, so maybe we can go with that one?
Yeah, I think we should go with that one. Go for that one.
I think it's a more like a classic Procs track, if we can say that.
Yeah, I think a good choice, and it's good you choosing it.
Alright, so guys, we are gonna listen to track number 5 of Stuck in the Oven with Me, the first album of Micke, and this is Overtures from the Oven. It's a tragedy for me to cut this track short, but okay, for the service of the interview, I'll leave it there.
I just feel weird when I hear the music and I'm like sitting here and like not sure where to look.
Welcome to your first video reaction ever. This is what happens in YouTube all the time. Just people with their faces reacting to things.
Modern shit. Like I told you, like I have done one interview before. It's 12 years ago.
Oh yeah, but wow, man, what an amazing, ultra crunchy, meaty, fat, crazy track. Also, I don't know. Me, for example, when I first heard it, I didn't understand it, but now I'm even like jealous of the production. In when I first listened to it, I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And then when I listen more and more to it, and the layers and the way it's done, and how unpredictable the structure is, that track is very, very beautiful and super fucking crazy. Like it's not just a little psychedelic. It's like since it begins to it ends, it's all the time the same intensity. So is it conscious for you when you're building the tracks? For example, the way you structure them, they are not similar to anything of trance. Even if for you might be able to link them, for me it's very hard to predict. When is a sound going to come in your tracks? Your breaks almost are non-existent and are part.
To predict for you?
Like you are one of the most unpredictable of all. I don't understand where the sounds are coming from. I don't understand when the breaks are coming. Everything keeps melting into itself.
But you still get into the vibe and get more and more up? Or is it destroying you on the way?
It's like melting my ego in a way that almost makes me scared sometimes, because it's not a progression. It's from the first seconds, which is rare, for me.
Yeah.
It's like I need like a very long build up to get to that point where my judgment doesn't work anymore, where I cannot predict, or where I cannot, my ego doesn't work anymore because the music is just like overflowing it. With tracks like this, for example, I don't know, when you played it in bigger sound systems, I also felt it as well. It's really overflowing, from the first seconds, it's already like in the highest point, when normally a track, they take very long to build it. In your tracks, there's not like a build up. It's all the time like on that point.
Build up all the time and things connecting to each other, for me at least. Everything is connecting to each other. There's some sense that everything is building this picture of things. And you ask like if I have a sense of ideas of breaks sometimes, or a lot of times I don't think about it. I kind of like when you can build it down and keep it rolling and then cut it up and get it out there again. But yeah, in some sense, sometimes it's also quite aware to I'm getting bored of breaks all the time and build-ups. And that you can hear actually in this track, because it's like, I think already back then I was very influenced by more techno-ish sound in the background, and I loved it. The techno-ish vibe of how you like keep going into the flow. But if you would ask like our friend like Sufus or someone, if they hear this at the dance floor, they would be like, oh, it's so many breaks, man.
Okay, yes, of course. Compared to techno and that style of more hypnotic music, it's impossible almost to compare it. It doesn't sound like that. But it's true that, okay, maybe what I can hear in your tracks that sounds a little like techno, but it's still hard, and I really have to think about it. It's more or less the way you structure it, but still, like this, for example, like it's like this track or many others you do, it's like the track feels all the time like kind of like the same moment, or kind of like the same object that you are kind of just showing it from many sides, but the track, yeah, it's like you always have like the same theme. Sorry?
Yeah, and that's like, no, that's you're very true to that. You're very right about that. It's not even close to techno. I would say, like, we heard a bit of Shouting Woodyman before, how it builds up, and the same with the bass lines and stuff. It's like, maybe it's because coming from like a classical kind of musical environment or something. I really love it, like how you can use a bass line, evolve it or whatever, and then at the same time, like, if you use a sample, don't just take a sample and throw it in there and just break up a track and you go like, oh, what was that? Oh, it was a funny sample or whatever. Use it to create the full track and make the vibe and use parts of it. I'm not sure if it makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know if you notice, like, for example, on that track we just heard, there is nothing that reminds me of like normal psychedelic trance in the traditional way, you know? Like, let's say that normally psychedelic trance, even if it's trippy or experimental, I know where parts begin or end, or you know, the way it's structured, the way the breaks are there, the way you do it, definitely, maybe it has something in common with how was trance before, that is more like continuous and more like a tunnel rather than interrupted breaky thing. But yeah, exactly, I wonder if it was on purpose, if it was aware, or if it just was what you like, basically.
Just making music and what I like. I never really, what you say, like, care, like, what you should do. For sure, I would love to, make my sounds and just live out making that sounds. It's more like enjoying the moment of making music.
See, no, it's very interesting that this is what came out naturally, because for me the feeling was like, how the fuck this guy is doing this? Because to be honest, I can try to replicate many people doing music, but man, we tried to replicate what you do, and I still haven't figured it out yet.
I'm quite sure you can make more complex sounds than I make in that track.
Probably,
For
but
sure.
it wouldn't be like what you do, you know. And to be honest, it's not like I have never tried, you know. There is something how you build tracks, especially on that album for me, which.
But it's like how the sounds answer to each other for me. Like how they bend to each other, how they answer, how they collect, like the full spectra of the track. It's not like here we have one cool sound and then that one comes here. It's more like that one comes here and then this have to be here, and but you have to, I don't know, shitloads of pitch bend and filters and playing around shitloads with metasynth. You have to try it.
So in this, for example, here you did a lot with metasynth.
Yeah, I think in that one also Bangerot, but in Overtures from the Oven it's a lot of metasynth. But for sure it can stop the flow while making music, like you have to bounce down some stuff, but if you know metasynth, then you know what you're gonna get. So you bounce down some stuff, go to metasynth and you do your stuff, bounce it down again from that one, bring it back.
Maybe what we can do to continue talking a little about your music, we could more or less move on to what happened. So okay, you made this album, it came out, and there, I guess, very slowly you started to get more involved in the trance scene and maybe play a little as Procs. And did you already there finally met with the rest of the Sanaton guys, or this happened later on? What were your next steps in trance after you finally released this album?
Well, I would say I would shitloads into trance and go and everything. I was very hyped about everything around 2000. And a couple of years later, I went to boom in 2000 just to enjoy. You were there?
You told me you were in Boom 2000, which that is so early. Yes, please tell us more about that.
Yeah, but I know some of our friends like Jabo and Mono was there also. No, that was completely different. Different location, no water, no. It was for sure a hardcore experience.
Oh, wow, I didn't know there was no water. Holy shit.
At least as I remember it. There was no lake. It was like, I remember, like 40 degrees heat, no, and they put on the sprinklers on the dance floor and no water coming up on the tent area. And you go like, oh, what the fuck, man. I remember if I you asked me about Coxbox, the remix by Logic Bomb. I think I heard that track getting played like so many times during a week or 5 days, or what was it? That one, the Spongel, the remix, the dance beat, the Divine Moments of Truth remix.
Oh, yeah, sure. The Logic Bomb remix of the Cospo track, what track was it? It's a major problem in Australia, no?
Yeah, for sure.
A very good one. It was also a GMS remix, you remember? Yes, nothing compared to the Logic Bomb one, of course. But
still, like GMS, no, like, wow, do androids dream of electric sheep? Like their track, wow.
But wait, let's jump a little more into the future, because on all those years from 2001 to 2005, or let's say 2000 to 2004, you were doing more or less what became Stuck in the Oven with Me, and there you were pretty much on your own. You told me that you still didn't have so much relation with the trance scene yet, at least not with the more.
I would say nobody was producing stuff, but I was hanging out a lot in the trance scene and going for parties. The only one who making music was this close friend, this Elias, who's making this gudge kind of techno stuff.
Okay. So basically, until Stuck in the Oven with Me, you were still on your own, pretty much like figuring out things on your own. Did it change after that? Like, did you start to play around? Did you start to meet more producers? Did you finally meet the guys there? I mean, the Sanaton guys?
You're after the Sanaton story.
No,
the first one I met.
Everything, actually. Like, what happened with you after the album? And, like, yeah, how were your next steps? Because there at some point, I think
I mean, I think Daniel, Daniel Macadam or Goya. Nowadays, we met through a familiar friend, having a barbecue dinner in Gothenburg, I think 2001, 2002, hanging out. I don't think he was making music by then. He was just hanging out, like, wow, this is a cozy person. And then his friend started a Sanaton. He's not around now for the Sanaton, but the beginning of the Sanaton guy.
yeah, this guy called
And
Yanni,
Jensen,
no?
Yeah, when Jensen Ola, I just briefly met them, like, I guess same parties, but then I can't remember playing, I think after or before them at this IFAN party also, but in the West Coast in Sweden, maybe 2003, 2004.
Already aware of Derango and their music and everything.
No, because Ifan showed me some of the stuff, and I was like, wow, that is fun shit. And then I think they played maybe before or after me, or in the morning or something. Ooh, a small private party. I think the first one who, quite interesting, like the first one who bring me out of Sweden to play was for Oslo. It was Kim, who did. He brought me to play a club in Oslo in 2001 or 2002.
Oh, wow. Okay. Actually, I forgot to tell you, I have my own Captain Ethan story, that when I finally met Jens, I started to write emails to Jens around 2006 or 7, and we had a very good correspondence. No, you know how Jens is, that he only answers emails. So we started to exchange that, and there, Jens actually told me that the first time that he had ever heard about Megalopsy was through Captain Ethan, and Captain Ethan just showed him our album, and he said something like, there is something here. This album is interesting. You should check it out. So that's why Jens knew Megalopsy, because it was Captain Ethan that recommended it to him. So yeah, for that was really interesting. But wow, wait, you were just saying before that already Kim Kbca invited you to play around 2002 or 3.
2001 or 2002, I went to Oslo to play his club, the first booking outside of Sweden. And I remember also the after party, like hanging out with my friends. And I don't know what happened, but I remember they hid our shoes in the stairway somewhere. Because probably someone, no, it was my friend's back then boyfriend. Yeah, I'm not sure. Who was like nice dude, but a coke dealer or whatever, who was quite rude, I think, to them. And they were like, I wish.
When did you meet finally? Like, okay, because there you met Kim before you met Daniel. When did you finally talk with Jens and Ola?
You're trying to go for something like, I don't know, like I would say like, yeah, I met Daniel first of everybody, and it's good vibe, and we keep having connection. Then I'm going to Russia to play together with Raskel, and me and Micke, we had a good vibe going on, good connections. I don't run into them all the time, but never really talk. Because I guess all been in party.
The main reason of my question is that for me it's interesting that even if you were living in a country full of producers, like before, before like Logic Bomb, Hux Flags, all this, and even while you were growing up, you also had all these producers around you, like Derango and Raskel, and slowly what would become Sanaton. For me, it's interesting that still, I have to say that your music still sounds for me like you were like waterproof of influence, even from all these guys. Because even now, moving on to Lonely Land of Tada, which is your second album, for me, it's interesting to see that even though if you had all these people around making this music, I don't know, it just sounds like you were still more true to your roots and your origins and your way of doing it. And maybe this of you doing music on your own forever kind of made a difference, like maybe it makes a difference that you are always doing music on your own, and that's how you feed yourself of your inspiration. And even though if you met all these guys and you get closer to Sanaton and played in some parties together, it still didn't really translate in your music. It just became more like a friendship and like a mutual admiration. But I would say that you were still pretty, like impervious to their influence. What do you think about that? That's where I was trying to get at. Like if meeting all of them made any difference to your music, if discovering the music of Traskel, Don Quixote, Durango gave you any influence, or if it was just like meeting people who become your friends and you also enjoy their music.
Yes, their music like super interesting, but I never like got completely hooked on this scene, and I loved all kinds of scenes of music and just wanted to make music. For sure, I got very inspired by all the sounds going on. Not like when I was like 90s trying to replicate hallucinogen or whatever. It was more like you found your way and getting inspiration from all kinds of psytrance stuff or jazz or whatever. And of course you get inspiration from everything because it's all around you all the time.
Okay, then I guess that
make your own stuff.
Yeah, like pretty much you had find yourself already, so yeah, I guess your relation to music was different. So maybe now we can jump to Lonely Land of Tada. Maybe you can tell us, for example, why did you title it in that way? What was happening musically for you in that time. Maybe you can introduce us a little to what was your mindset when you started to do this album?
It was a bit of, some of the tracks was like, I think the first ones were like Astro Circus Freak, quite far out track, or I thought it was back then. I started it like immediately after releasing the first one, because I had a feeling like, come on, man, make a concept album or like a full ID instead of compilation of tracks. It was, I would say, more dirty. I was listening to shitloads of like music like Acid Mother's Temple, shitloads of Mike Patton and all his projects. We listened to the end before, or the end, like this kind of stuff, and playing around. And some of the tracks I really remember how like the track The Lonely Land of Tada was made like winter time. You can feel like you've seen snow when you crunch it in your hand, how it sounds kind of. That's more or less the bass in The Lonely Land of Tada, playing around.
So maybe what we can do to get more a feeling of the music of that time, we can play one of the tracks that you suggested me. I don't know which one. I think the first one you said you wanted to play was, one second, Gobbledygook. So maybe we can try. Sorry. So yeah, let's play that one and let's see if it sets the mood. I like it too. Gobbledygook. Also, it's a very good track title.
Yeah, go for it.
So alright, guys, we are gonna go with Gobbledygook from The Lonely Land of Tada. This is Micke's Procs second album. So yeah, let's check it out a bit. Alright guys, so there we were listening to Gobbledygook. Now we're gonna listen to another track. While Micke takes a short break, I want to play the one called The Little Beatles. So yeah, we can have a little more to discuss and analyze his music. So
Wow,
okay. Wow, man, that track is absolutely fantastic, I have to say. And I don't know, man. It's like, to be honest, I love your music because you don't give a fuck about what was happening, around trance that time, in that moment. It's so unique, your own evolution, your own way. This track and this album, both tracks we just listened to, are super evolved. The production is super evolved as well, the ideas, but it's like your own evolution, completely independent to many things that were happening in trance. So yeah, for me that's why it's very interesting, what was happening in your mind, when you made these tracks, and why you chose them also.
For me, it's like you say, completely not into trance, but I was completely into trance, but I was also like for creation, you just do your own thing, kind of like try to find new ways or whatever. And you said the track titled Kbca was fun. Came from my first Australia visit. Thank you, Jim, if you watch this. Or everybody's called Jim down there.
Okay, but that's where you learn about this word.
Yeah, Jim Emmy. Apparently it's like from Icelandic or something. It's like gibberish.
Yes, gobbledygook means like basically when you're talking nonsense.
Yeah, nonsense or whatever. I picked up that word in Australia in 2007, I remember.
Oh, very nice. And what about the other one? Why is it called the Little Beatles?
Here you go again. I don't know. No, actually, I do know. So I was starting that track sitting on a train with my dead nowadays, but MacBook, the white ones, and just installed the Logic 2007. Must be Logic before the Pro X and stuff. I had like this baseline ID, and then I think there's some kind of like this more. I don't know how to explain it. It was like springtime, sitting on the train.
Okay, because
getting the vibe of it.
I wanted to go because you were saying before that the Lonely Land of Tada, this album, had more like a concept, and you also were saying that you were doing all these tracks around the winter as well, or in autumn. So maybe you can tell us a little about them.
A couple of years, but it was like the same vibe, the same idea. I had like an idea that now I'm gonna make more like a concept or a full album. So yeah, sitting in the train was just like a story behind it, and it was.
Why the name Lonely Land of Tada?
That's so quite like random, of course. I don't know. Still, it felt right. I don't know.
You
I don't know
more about the concept.
It felt right, and I had this idea of the different tracks, and then don't you do that? Like you always have a track name in your head?
No, never. I always have to try to think about it after. Maybe sometimes, yes, but it's rare. Most of the time the track name is maybe one of the last things I do when I have to release it.
Yeah, but I mean, shitloads of ideas of track names, but at the same time, when you finally do like album or something, that album name was just, I don't know, it just felt right at the moment. I don't know where and Little Beatles, you say Little Beatles, yeah, I know exactly where it came from actually, like now. Watching Evil Dead 2, the best movie ever. Not number 1, fuck number 3, number 2, Evil Dead number 2. That's the thing you want to watch.
And for example, you had mentioned before that in those times you were listening to a lot of John Zorn and even Acid Mother's Temple too. I think you had mentioned that these were like a big influence in this album. So maybe you can tell us a little about that music influence you got from them too.
Yeah. So how to tell about the influence? It's listening to shitloads of that music, and I would say like Mike Patton, Acid Mother's Temple, and breakcore and stuff like this is quite harsh. But still, like Mike Patton, Acid Mother's Temple, everybody's quite playful or in a funny sense, and they really influenced the ideas of that, like playfulness, playing around, go back and forth. You can hear that in the track you play, the little beat is like it jumps between different, like it sounds like one thing in the beginning and then just straightly jump into this other thing.
For me, to be honest, a lot of your tracks always give me the feeling that it's like a band jamming. And when it changes of direction, it's just because, okay, the jam now is going that way, you know?
Yeah, in my sense also, it's like, it's always a, what is it called, a thread of things connecting. Connecting in some ways that I can't really explain, but it can be sound-wise or...
And for example, I remember you...
The feeling of, just the feeling of like the vibe of something you're into, and then you can like connect sounds through that. And then of course people will go like, what the fuck is it doing? Because they don't understand the vibe you're into.
No, and I also remember that you mentioned that the last track, the Thin Rustle of Wits, I think it's called, you said something that it was in a film somehow?
Yeah, that's actually like, I think that was the last one I made. And it was actually like not a part of a concept idea, but just ended up being like that. It was like taking sounds and making music and sounds for this short feature film that was about like...
Is it online? I mean, can people find it to see it?
That sucks also, but well, it was supposedly to be like more like a, I would say, a surrealistic movie about someone, kind of like, I would say, like David Lynch's idea, like someone dying and seeing his dream world coming true or something. I don't remember exactly, like something like his dream world coming true about he's sitting there and it's just getting... I remember shooting that movie, taking the sounds, how this actor is sitting on the bench and they have these beautiful girls walking by. It's dreamland. But then there's like, he gets fed up of it or something and church bells are ringing and sitting next to a church in Stockholm, a park. And
must have been interesting at least to participate there, making it, no? And yeah, putting your music there.
Yeah, it was fun doing it.
And then, okay, maybe I wanted to ask you, before we move on to the last album, actually, you were mentioning about playfulness. Is this something that you consider important in music? Because it's true, a lot of your music sounds like a little like circus or like Mr. Bungle would sound, or like jazz can even sound sometimes a little more like circus. So is playfulness something that you consider important? Do you consider that playfulness also helps with the psychedelic aspect of it, or it makes it more soft?
I don't know, like I don't think about it like I'm gonna do this to get more in a psychedelic aspect or something. But I do think like it's boring if you just repeat yourself after a while. And that's actually what happened to me. Like after the second album, I would say I was like realizing how I started making this music and experimenting and having fun. And then all of a sudden I started having, anticipations on how it should sound if it would be Procs. I could notice myself sitting down making music and started making stuff that was like more or less getting into like starting playing around and then like, it should be a bit like this or whatever. And then I got fucking bored, actually. And then I reinvented, like, I'd done a lot of different stuff during the wave, but then I invented the name Stelling Pony on the way. And it was more or less just me, like, okay, do whatever you want, don't care about anything. But the first thing I told myself, limit yourself. I remember first, like, with the under the name, still not released though, like, was take your old favorite vinyls. You can't use anything else except for that. No synths, nothing. But manipulate it however you want. Just limit yourself and play around with that and see what comes.
Okay, so basically, Stellar Ink Pony was something that you were doing before, or you started to do it around this time of Lonely Land of Tada?
It was something I was doing before, but by then I was like getting tired of, or realizing, like, after finishing that one, it was like more or less like, now I'm painting myself into a corner, making music that sounds like me. And then, when I try to make music again, or danceable music that sounds like me because it's supposed to sound like this or something.
I see. So basically, you are saying that the first Stellar Ink Pony tracks that you did, I mean, that you consider maybe more serious intention, were around this time, and you challenge yourself to, like, do tracks only using, like, the old vinyls from your early collection, let's say.
Yeah, in the beginning, at least, the first one was just like, I remember, like, just samples of, actually, like, this Bible thing of Louis Armstrong, Louis and the Good Book, looping up shitloads of small parts of that together with some, I think, some Benny Goodman. I remember the ride cymbals in that one was actually stolen from the Doors but pitched down. And I actually used
The on the technical side, with Lonely Land of Tada, or now when you started to do the first Stellar Ink Ponies, did you change your way of producing? Were you using any new programs or anything new, or was more or less the same techniques that you were using before?
in a bit same techniques. Then I was also, this is like, yeah, this is 10 years ago. I was also doing this Max MSP course and doing all those stuff, which I forgot nowadays. So maybe it was, I still have one patch left that I can use sometimes to chop up stuff, see what happens, kind of. Yeah, the techniques were a bit similar, but of course they evolved the ideas and refined it kind of on the way. And that's the beauty of it, I think, when you switch the perspective and, like, lock yourself in to do this, then after a while you start, like, getting new inspiration to make Procs again, but from a different angle or with new ideas. Or
See, that's interesting. Actually, for me too, to do other music helped a lot for me to be able to continue doing trance for so long in my life. I don't know if I would have done it otherwise. I really needed to jump in and out. So that's why also my Prisma project is so important for me as well. Right now, at the moment, is one of my main focus as well.
yeah, and it's like, and then people ask you, like, "Hey, can I have a track for our compilation?" And it's just 3 months, in 3 months. And it's like, I have no clue. Maybe it will take a year, maybe it will take 2 days, I don't know. Usually it will take a month or something, or probably a year of jumping back and forth into that track.
Okay, that's an interesting question, actually. So when you start a track, do you come back to it a lot and change the parts and redo them?
Okay, so I have probably by now like 3 million started different tracks. Half of them is Procs kind of ways. Some is just experimental weirdness, some is everything in between. If I go back to them, some of them I go edit shitloads sometimes, like small edits and stuff. But at the same time, I don't think it's necessary to make a good track to edit it forever. Or sometimes it turns out super well and super interesting that you edit shitloads of cuts or add stuff or remove stuff. But I think still, like, I could compare two tracks. I'm not sure if you heard them from me, like Quirky Douglas. That's the next album.
Yes, actually, if you want, we can already kind of switch to that one too. But yes, please tell me these 3 tracks and the comparison.
Yeah, that one is like very making the sounds, doing a lot of edits, and I really love that track. It took a long time with all the small edits and how they get chopped up on the way and answer to each other. But on the other side, you have like a track I released on a compilation, like this big fat snoring llamas, which is super
Amazing.
spontaneous. I think it was made in one day of just like let go of everything, just pour it in there. Sure, it sounds dirty, but who the fuck cares? Yeah.
And for example, okay, now I'm curious to understand your flow. For example, this very, very epic track that you made of the elephants from Dumbo, how long did it take you to do that one?
I don't know. It started with just chopping it up, finding the feeling of it, finding a bass, doing the BPM a bit higher because it felt too slow. First versions I played, I think you were there in Full Moon Parvati 2010.
Okay, but basically this track, you didn't do it in one day. It took you a few times until you work on it.
Yeah, the first time I played it was, and the first couple of times it was very basic. It was just put it up in BPM, a bit chopping up a bit, put the ES2 synthesizer in the triplets and triplets.
And then okay, wait, so there, for example, because I was asking you before, you were using Cubase, I think, until you were stuck in the oven with me. Did you were already switching to Logic for Lonely Land of Tada, or this happened after?
Yeah, somewhere on the way there, in the middle of Lonely Land of Tada, I switched to Logic.
See, so then, for example, the next album, Touchdown in Hissy Town, this one, it's fully made in Logic?
Yeah, it's fully Logic.
So wait, okay, maybe...
And the elephant?
Yeah, please go on.
Yeah, the elephant track, yeah. I keep evolving it. I kept chopping it up. People don't realize it when you play it that it's mixed with some old jazz music, also like Teddy Bear's Picnic or whatever. Things that just kind of matches, and then bending everything with metasynth here and there. But never mind. Yeah, go on.
Oh yeah, mostly my question with that one was how long did it take you, because yeah, it's such a fantastic track. And like, for example, this other famous track, which I think it's also in Touchdown to Hissy Town, the one that is like with higher BPM, how long did it take you to do that one?
He's in the dead. Yeah, the Balkan style, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I did the melody, I think, first. And then the melody, like, you know, with the organ in the beginning. It started while I was into shitloads into Balkan music, gypsy punk and stuff like this. Even organizing like parties for like organized like a party for left-wing movement with punk style, ska music, gypsy stuff. I was super into that and funny music. And then that melody kind of like just came up. I remember going to shitloads or at least every time Gogol Bordello would show up in Stockholm, I would go for their concert. And the melody just popped up. But then I didn't do much with it. And then it took about a year or something. And then I was like, oh, what is this? Oh, maybe I should continue this. And then you just kind of keep going. There's a quite clean vibe. Like, it's not like Lonely Night of Tada is quite out there in the sounds. Shitloads of things happening.
Oh yeah, maybe exactly. Maybe you can tell us a little. Now we can switch over and check out a little of Touchdown in Hissy Town. What was the concept exactly with this album? What were you thinking? What was behind, like in your mindset, musically wise, and with the concept when you made this album? For example, maybe you can start with why the name as well.
Well, the name was just random in the end because I didn't have a name. And the name ended up becoming like that because I had the name for Human Touchdown and He's in the Dead. But I didn't have a album name, and that I couldn't come up with. And then it just mixed. So the album name is nothing particular, I would say.
And what was the concept behind, and what were you thinking, musically wise?
Like when you think concept, what is your thought? Like concept of an idea.
So me, for example, I am more nerdy, and I do think about genres, and I do think about styles and references, and I do think about artists. I wanna, me, to be honest, I think about the concept before doing the music, and then I I struggle to more or less fit the music to the concept. For me, to be honest, to think about ideas is much more easy than to make the music. I think in your case it's the opposite. The music flows out more on you, and then putting a name, it's maybe more an annoyance than something that you really want to do.
I have shitloads of ideas of names. Sometimes I have names long before. But what I meant with like the concept idea, like if people think concept album, they maybe think like Coxbox, The Great Unknown or something, how it feels like we have an idea how we should produce it or something.
Well, yes, that will be the traditional sense of talking about a conceptual album. But no, my question was more like, what's the idea behind that album? I don't know in trance if necessarily it's true. There's not many people, for example, that do albums that are all like joined together, with the intro and the outro. This, for example, I don't know if only that is what makes an album more conceptual or not. I think it's more about the tracks and.
For me, it was more like mindset, the hearing of a not musical idea, or no, not musical idea, more like a room you're in, and this room is kind of sounding like this or something. I'm not sure how to explain. And in that room, it fits together, but it's not like. First, I am gonna have this ambient track or build up, and then this and this. It's more like a mindset of how it looks.
Like a musical photograph, something like that.
Yeah, I think I keep getting back to that, like this painting.
Yes, the idea of painting, of like capturing a feeling.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, that's the thing.
So wait, maybe what we can do now is we can listen to some, like maybe 1 or 2 tracks in a row from Touchdown in Hissy Town. Me for sure, I would love to play Hissy in the Dead. And is that the one from the Balkan song? Yeah.
One with yeah.
Perfect. And
I always considering not to play, but I realize I have to play it.
then the other tracks you have suggested was Cotton Candy Wipeout and...
I love it because it's so smooth. It shits loads of meta synth wobbly things. And it's the Juno 106 in the bass.
Okay, nice. Okay, so I'm gonna play that one first. So basically the first track is gonna be the first track I'm gonna play is gonna be Cotton Candy Wipeout from what will be the third album of Procs, Touchdown in Hissy Town. So yeah, let's listen to that one, and then I'm gonna play straight after that Hissy in Dead. So yeah, let's listen a little bit.
Take a moment, look around. What
play this epic track that Mike is always forced to either play or not play, or at least think about it, because yeah, people know it very well. So the next one is Hissy in the Dead.
Are you just talking about this, or are we just talking about it? Yeah, we're just speaking about it. Speaking about it is an idea. Have I said that? Are you? Did I say that? What did I say? What did he say? What did he say? You're actually talking about this. Yes. We're not actually talking about it. No. Talking about it as no. What do you mean? You did. No, not actually. Did you? What did I say? What did you say? What did I say? What did he say? What did he say? You're actually talking about this. Yes. We're not actually talking about it. No. Talking about it as no. What do you mean? You did. No, not actually. Did you? What did I say? What did you say? Did I say that? What did I say? What did he say? What did he say? You're actually talking about this. Yes. We're not actually talking about it. No. Talking about it as no. What do you mean? You did. No, not actually. Did you? What did I say? What did you say? Did I say that? What did I say? What did he say? What did he say? You're actually talking about this. Yes. We're not actually talking about it. No. Talking about it as no. What do you mean? You did. No, not actually. Did you? What did I say? What did you say? What did I say? What did he say? What did he say? You're actually talking about this. Yes. We're not actually talking about it. No. Talking about it as no. What did he say?
saying, for me, very important to play this track. I had the most mind-melting experience listening to it in Boom Festival. I actually had listened to it many times, but it's like I forgot about it. I listened to it in Boom 2016. And holy shit, man, it was so intense a feeling, and it opened up also like a part of my mind that not many music touched since a long time, that I genuinely got kind of like a little freaked out. I noticed there was like too many people that know me around, so I just like went to a corner that no one knew me and like expressed my joy in listening to this track. And yeah, wonderful. I have to say that it's a very, very refined, crazy, insane idea of what a trance track could be, you know. What do you think of it?
Yeah, what can I say? I'm super happy about it. I think it's funny. It's like, what you say, like psychedelic, but also in a good mood. Crazy for sure. But also in a mood that makes you smile and enjoy the moment. Kind of like what we talked about earlier, this ever-going darkness thing with a kind of vibe of...
And also about the other track, the Cotton Candy Wipeout. I mean, this one you said that you were using the Juno already.
Yeah, I just got my 30th birthday. I got a Juno 106. Super basic synth, but very lovely sound and filters. And so the track is super, I would say, as you noticed, very basic, very straightforward. Maybe good for me to keep it straightforward sometimes.
I have to say that, I don't know, for me it's like, there is a lot of evolution in each of your albums, and they're so unique, and actually we are not doing them justice because they are very long tracks and many parts, and all the tracks are different, so we just heard like a glimpse of what you're doing, but there we can see very quickly how unique it is, and the evolution it is. But still, for me, I have to say, it's very interesting, you know, that your evolution is not connected to the contemporary evolution of trance. It's like you have your own way and your own independent path of what is evolution and where you're going to. I don't think anyone knows except you, or maybe you don't even know it as well. But it's nice to see you try to get to it. And I wonder, since this is your last album, what happened more or less? I mean, of course, it's a lot of years, but musically wise, like you didn't do any other album. You mostly were releasing tracks here and there. Like what happened with Procs after this album? For people that don't know, maybe.
Just a few tracks, like I think one compilation for Vantara Visitra. I think I released something with Yggdrasil, maybe something else. I don't know. After that one, first I was like, I'm not gonna do anything more albums. I'm not sure how much I'm gonna say, because I've been saying that for a few years now, like I'm soon gonna finish my new album. But honestly, I'm actually like finishing up the last track, I think, for the new album.
So, for example, right now, are you working on an album? What are you doing? Music? What are you doing?
I'm doing a Procs album. I'm doing Stellar and Pony EPs. I'm also doing some. I'm not sure if you're familiar. I'm not sure if there's even a term for it, but more like space house or something, like trippy kind of house, lower BPM stuff.
Why? Wow. Let me go a little slower there. For example, you're doing a Procs album right now. What's the state of it? Is it finished? You're still working on it? Do you have an artwork?
I have an idea for the last track I'm working at. How it will explode. Go into infinity, kind of. But it would be a weird fucking album for sure. And cover, no cover yet. I've been
Do you
thinking.
know where is it going to be released? In what label?
No, I can't tell yet. I have some contact with some people that's interested in that, because it's also like I've kept saying that for like 2-3 years now. I'm just gonna finish this one before you can get a track for a compilation. Now it's actually getting to its end. If I just finish this track I'm looking at now, but I wanna have the right mood when I do it. And then then let's see which label is up for it.
And then you said you're also trying to do like Stellar Ink Pony album, or is it just tracks?
I had quite a lot of Stelling Pony stuff from the beginning. I even had like album cover for a vinyl and a full double for the oval harmonic we started. Then putting a vinyl and oval harmonic and making experimental music is not really bringing in money to finance it. But then I'm also making a lot of other, keep doing Stellar Ink Pony all the time. Switching between different projects, what you're into at the moment. Always super hard, because sometimes you're like, I should work on this track. Then you feel like it doesn't feel right, and you try, and then you realize, no, it's because I'm not into that mood. So you switch to a different one.
Wait, you also mentioned another project that you said it was like Space House. What name do you use when you do that kind of music?
It's not me, it's just beginning of something. Together with a friend. Let's see what happens. It's more we finished 2 tracks. I think the first one was an experiment to see how we synchronize. The second one was, I would say, very relaxed, and I would say super nice. Let's see when he's back in Stockholm again.
Very curious about that, actually. And I mean,
super good DJ also. Simon Bowling. We went to Midnight Sun.
You said Midnight Sun. Yeah, okay. I didn't understand the relation to it.
That's the guy I'm making music with, Simon.
Oh,
you know him?
No, I don't think I remember him. Do I know him? I do.
Except for that, I think also one of the more that I'm doing tomorrow also, go to Johan.
So you're doing music also together with Johan as well?
Yeah, that's one of the guys I'm really synchronizing with the sense of humor and having fun together.
Name of you guys together? What's some ridiculous name?
Stenad and Stanley. I think we have at least one track on the last Sanaton thing.
That one, yeah.
That was a quite dirty motherfucker.
Man, is that the track that all the times go out of sync?
Probably, yeah. No. Yeah, that one that goes out of sync I played a couple of times. That's not the one. This one, the one we released, is just like a hectic, ultra dark, distorted thing. The out of sync one, the out of sync. I think that's the first one when we started having fun together. It's been a couple of tracks in between. Let's see what happens tomorrow.
Nice. No, I have to say that I look forward a lot to Procs' new album and also to more Stellar Ink Pony. And yeah, I have to say that the track that you guys made for Sanaton is fucking mental case. It's we
I would say we have 5 tracks all together, and the last one we worked out.
you know
It's
we listened to the compilation here on the show. No, we made like a review, and yeah, I was like, oh my god, who the fuck made this track? And then we look for the credits, and it was you guys. Yeah, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, like, because like we talked about earlier, like most of our stuff, otherwise I would say people would laugh and think it's happy stuff. But that track released in Sanaton is quite dark in some sense.
Super evil, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, that's distort shit. Kind of. Yeah.
But
What
okay,
would you think about, would you love to hear a Procs and Don Quixote Sten and Stanley album at some point?
yes, please. That will be amazing. Actually, that will be like maybe one of like my last questions to lead on slowly to finish this. Like I noticed that even though you are one of the persons that also has a normal job, you cannot travel all the time, but you still kept your relation with trance since almost like 25 years now. But you still keep producing it. You still feel inspired to do procs. I wonder about that. Like, first of all, like, it seems to me that you're still inspired and that you still feel like making the music and that you still like have fun doing it. Do you think that the fact that it never became your full career also helped, or you still just simply see a lot of fun doing the music, or this like a healthy distance of just doing it for fun was what allowed you to continue forever? Like, so maybe those were many questions together, but what is your feeling right now with trance after being so long with it, and how do you feel with it? Do you feel inspired, and how do you keep being inspired?
Right now, I'm feeling super inspired to make more dance music, but I'm not whatever comes to me inspiration. But at the same time, it's like that's not happening. Super nice to have a good career or work thing on the side, so you can actually like let go of pretentious things or what you have to do. You can just relax into doing what you wanna do, and not because you have to produce a new track or new album all the time. You don't have to go play.
Yeah, so I think that's maybe the key of how you kept all these years, that like a fun relation to it. No, for you it still feels like fun to make music, and you still get inspiration and ideas.
Yeah, but still, it's also like, for sure, I got fucking bored at making danceable stuff at points. I mean, I had years when I did. But you have to, I think if you switch it up and realize this is fucking boring, and you're going to try out different stuff, whatever, like experiment, and actually like experimenting like with selling pony or just playing around with something that's not dance, but that will trigger in the end some ideas for the dance rock stuff. Then it gives you a new direction into that, and you go like, oh wow, yeah, I can do this with this.
Right. No, yeah, I look forward like very much to all this music, and okay, maybe now, like I would say more or less I've asked you everything. So first of all, I wanted to say, Micke, thank you for doing this interview. I know that you guys are not friendly with the cameras, and also I want to say it in camera very clearly in front of you. Thank you for all these years of music. Thank you for incredible moments that I will never forget. How could someone get so inside my soul, my mind, and my life with music. That's why I chase you all these months to make this interview. And thank you, thank you very, very much for opening up.
Make my second interview in ever, the first one in 12 years.
Thank you for having done this for history. Don't worry, maybe like in 20 years we do like another one, but it won't be now. But yeah, I mean it, Mike. Like, thank you for your amazing work and your contribution to, this little thing we do. But for me, it became my life. And, finding your album in 2005 pushed me harder into this. Even though when I make music, I cannot even like go to the direction you do. For me, it helped a lot, to open up my mind and the ideas. So yeah, thank you. Sorry?
You know what? I couldn't go your direction either. Because it's like a personal expression, I think.
Yes, but thank God that you decided to go for it, because it's very unique, very particular. It gave me incredible psychedelic moments, both like at home, just listening randomly one day, as well as in parties with friends, of course, there's a lot to say about music and parties, but for me, music that is meaningful also puts me closer to my soul, and when someone makes something so beautiful like what you do, it makes me, feel that beauty and come closer to that. And man, for sure, I had that many times with your music.
Stop it, my ego is gonna get like too huge after this.
I don't have a problem with that, man. I have to say it one time for history, many, many, many beautiful moments where you got me closer to beauty. So yeah, thank you, Mike, for doing this. And I was thinking maybe before like I let you say goodbye and we end this, maybe I can play one of the early tracks of the Stellar Ink Pony, like an outro, and then yeah, that could be it. So yeah, if you want, I give you now the microphone back to say thank you and goodbye. But yeah, thank you very much, Mike, for doing this.
Back, you want me to speak? I don't know what to say. Okay, yeah, thank you.
If you want, you can say goodbye, because tomorrow people will be there, and won't be able to hear you playing. So maybe you can say some message to them or try to...
Yeah, okay. So I'll do a message. So this is pre-recorded on Friday and transmitted on Saturday when I'm at Johan's place hanging out. And super happy to do a interview that ended up being like 3-4 hours long or something. And I hope someone gets inspired to experiment and find their own way into something.
Yeah,
for sure, produce your stuff, but find your own way at some point. And just have fun, actually.
All right.
Oh. Find your own voice, kind of.
I hope that too, man. I hope that by showing people like you that are so unique, we really inspire more people to embrace that uniqueness.
And listen to some Psyharmonics and Uber tomorrow.
Okay, Mike, then this will be really the last question, the last track. So I'm going to play this wobbly, or should I play N-Knap?
Oh, that's just short clips, right?
It's just a short clip. Okay, so, all right. Then maybe what I can do is play one or two of these clips, and then we can like finish the interview, and then I'll play one more track as an outro, but already off camera. So then, okay, this is it, Mike, pretty much the moment we say goodbye. Yeah. So thank you very much, and yeah, have a good night there. And yeah, hopefully soon I can send you the video as well, so you can see it and see what we did today.
Thank you. Go for it. I'm so tired. You're a night animal. When you woke up this morning, when you went to sleep, I woke up this morning.
Yes, very true. So okay, wait. Let me play like a little bit of the Stellar Ink Pony, and then I can finally like turn off here the camera. So yeah, now you can say goodbye if you want, Mike. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
Okay. Bye.